Welcome to a new episode of the Advancing Consciousness series with Franco Di Nicola. This is a place where people can come to gain further insight and clarity as to what is going on and how we can shift things on a personal and global level, while also accessing higher levels of consciousness and awareness. We bring this series to you free of charge so that many are able to access this information. However, if you resonate with what Franco shares and you would like to support his work, contributions are welcomed and greatly appreciated. A link is in the description and will be provided in the chat if you feel guided to do so. Also, we have many previous workshops, such as a couple of our most recent, Maneuvering with Neutrality and Alignment during this next wave of unfoldments, and Deprogram Clearing Empowerment Workshop. You could also join us in our membership program, Let's Talk About You, where like-minded people come together bi-weekly to talk about the topics requiring deeper understanding and clarity. All of these are available on Teachable, and we encourage you to check them out as they are great resources at very affordable prices to assist in better understanding this human experience. The Teachable link will also be provided in the chat and description. And lastly, don't forget to share. As the more of us coming together and creating a shift in oneself, the more effective it'll be to shift things globally. Thank you for joining us and being part of the change. Enjoy today's broadcast.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Advancing Consciousness series. This is episode 62. Sorry for that little piece without any sound. We've been having a lot of little technical difficulties today, and this is why the reason of the introduction being so long also. Anyways, we're up and running on all the platforms at this time that we were aiming towards, so hopefully stay steady. For any reason, should it start to get choppy or it stops for a little while, be patient, it will come back up again. We're having some internet issues in our area here, so every so often it gets cut off. Well, hopefully today it will stay straight without any interruptions, but you never know. So anyways, thank you for coming together, and we're going to play. And as you know, this series is about advancing consciousness, and it's about accessing higher aspects of yourself so that you can be a much more powerful creator to reshape the human experience and the world. And we are doing this together. It's not separate from us, being responsibility for certain individuals and so forth. Now, we have to also understand that everybody on the planet is playing one role or another. It does not matter whatever polarity they are representing, what role they are playing. It doesn't matter, because each one is pushing things to the max to one degree or another on either side until that blending comes in and those polarized roles are no longer required to be played the way it has been up to this point in time. We have stepped into a huge movement forward, which we all have agreed to do so, and we all have come together on the planet to be part of it, either as the observer, as the creator, as the reshaper, and also to play whatever roles best serves. Now, seeing that, this whole unification into oneness coming back together, and that oneness is really reshaping the way we have played the game on the planet up to this point in time, and what we have represented in what we call human form, or whatever we have taken on. So here we are today. So please, if you're new to this, please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, share, most importantly, because we want to reach as many people as possible. unfortunately, the distribution within the platforms that we're using is not that easily opened. So in essence, it seems to be selected who gets to see what. But if you share it with many people, then other people will get the opportunity to have that triggering within themselves, so that we more come online and to be much more proactive in a very unified way to make a huge change on the planet right now. This information is not for everybody, because at some point you're not going to be ready for it. However, even if it feels that it's too much above whatever you have been exposed up to this point in time, just let it move through you, because it will do exactly what is necessary, even if you don't understand the whole thing completely. So anyways, we'll get to play today. So part of my little board has been acting up today, so we'll have to do it one way different than normally. So today's episode is what dimensional, let's call it that, what dimensional plane are you playing in? It's a big question, because we have multiple dimensional states. Remember, we've talked about 2D, inverted 3D, organic 3D. There's some organic 4D, which is kind of skewed, but anyways, and then there's organic 5D. But we also have other levels of dimensions involved in there. The other part of the dimension is involving with what matrix we're still giving power to, and what we're using as resources to design our experience, how we get to play with whatever we have in our hands. So in understanding that whatever we are shifting into and playing with at any point in time, we will be in one way or another using that as a way to experience what we call reality, which is a beautiful, elaborate video game that we're all part and parcel of. And so at this point in time, those are the two stages of dimensional, but we have other multiple dimensions that we have available, which basically we have connections within ourselves to be able to access higher levels of dimensions. And what are dimensions? Dimensions are basically access points of consciousness that gives us more self-awareness as that level of sourceness. This is why dimensions exist. Dimensions are cluster access points where we can understand what we are, we are, and what we are here to do. Now, in that understanding, when we are playing on this realm, a lot of people talking about third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, and also the inverted stuff, we have, even right now, even if we were playing as an assigned, self-directed fifth dimensional consciousness, that means you're accessing that level of consciousness which you are applying in your experience, in creating your reality, your immediate personal reality, and all the different layers. Are we good?
Yeah, my computer's acting up.
Oh, okay. So those are multiple. But we have also access to 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9, in some cases even further. What does that mean? Even though we are on two-dimensional plane of existence of platforms on planet Earth, they're overlaid, we have, and let's move it on to here, where my banner was supposed to be, but it doesn't show. So even though that we are in the third organic and fifth dimensional organic, and these are both organics. Organic means basically in its natural state where there's no modifications done. Because the other stuff that we were working in the inverted stuff, okay, the inverted part of it, which we basically were dealing with the inverted 3D and in this case inverted 2D, which we are also using the inverted matrix at the time. Now, even though we have this as our operating system and we have an organic matrix too now, we can access any of this and then we can go up into all the higher dimensions, say even up to 9th dimension. That's not the greatest 9. Ninth dimension, but anything of that nature. Now, some of you have been skilled in tuning in and going into yourself and accessing higher consciousness. What does that do for us? Well, we can tap into higher consciousness, even though it hasn't been expressed and experienced in the human form. You can take that consciousness, that level of understanding, and use bits and pieces of it to bring it into either your organic 5D or 3D that you're playing with, because you have chosen to play in one or the other. Now, why would you choose one or the other? Well, it depends on where you can be best of service, first of all, best of service for yourself and best of service for that collective. Now, the only reason this is here, and a lot of people talk about the 5D, 3D, and then moving out of this, as much as we're making this obsolete and this is already unplugged, but we're making that obsolete, the 3D and 5D, the 3D gave us an opportunity to have some of that experience that hasn't been experienced for 10,000 years. So, the reason of the question, what dimension are you playing in, okay, is where is your attention going? Where is your energy shifting to, depending on what you're putting your attention on? This is the thing we have to understand. If you are going to put your attention on what's going on the planet right now, for example, of all the stuff that's on the mainstream and even the alternative stuff to a certain degree, there's very little, the purest form in a neutral oneness state available in comparison to the mainstream that is completely focused on the inverted stuff. And this is why you're seeing all of the stuff that's happening in the world right now mainly focused in the inverted stuff, where everything is backwards, where everything, instead of progressing, advancing humanity, it actually goes the other way. It's scaring us, and it's going into fear and fight and unfairness and all of this stuff, and putting a lot of focus in that because it's trying to keep this alive. The inverted matrix, which is not there, but we're still projecting it, and the inverted 3D and 2D state of being. So in that being the case, then you're also looking at other alternative stuff that can be in judgmental mode of this stuff, but can also be focusing in the 3D. But if even in that part of it, it's only a fragmented part of it because it's not bringing the whole piece together, the whole understanding. So depending on where our direction goes and where our focus goes shifts on what level of consciousness we are tapping into. And what you tap into as a level of consciousness, like I said earlier, will shape your reality in one way or another. Now, many of us are saying, okay, we're done with this experience. We're so done with this old world. This old world that was mainly focused on everything backwards. So we're going, why are we still seeing it? And not only seeing it, it looks alive and strong. It looks vibrant. It looks so real still yet. Well, the reason for that, to understand it, and I'm sure if you start to kind of observe it beyond the ego's projectional idea and beliefs and so forth, you will see that in one way or another, even in the selectional stuff that just happened not too long ago in this new empowerment in, say, North America, you're looking at it and say, well, how could this even be when it's so in our face that this is not the direction we want to go? However, you could see that there was a majority of people that were still mesmerized with an idea, with a certain party or something of that nature, and that if the other party continued, even though that needed to be upgraded at some point, that there would be still a lot of resentment and so forth that was going on because of that mesmerized state. So the fact of going in there, it's bringing more to the surface the power, the realism and the brightness and the intensification of that old world. And even the stepping back that has occurred or is occurring at this point in time is really getting us to a situation, basically a construct, kind of walking into that field where you're facing it and you're not in denial, but not only not in denial, that you actually start to see the illusionary stuff that has been applied, the filters. Look at it this way. How many of us go into a state where you get you're drawn to someone, for example, and or you're convinced by someone, a playmate, whoever, could be a family, could be a friend, could be a business partner, whoever, it could be a relationship. And because of this, you're in love, or because you trust them, because these are kind of these things. I'm using these words so that you can relate with it. Looking at that, you actually, and sometimes you've probably had friends, can't you see that this is not really what you think you're looking at? Well, what's happened is we've created veils of what we think we want to see. And this is what we've been all experiencing on the planet, including this so-called virus and whatever else. We've created all these filters. Now, I know that it's been coming through the mainstream. It's been coming through so-called self-elected experts and authority figures and whatever else. But they're making it very clear that we don't know what we're doing, but we want you to catch on so that you can actually, create a shift within yourself so it can move forward. Now, they don't know that clearly in a conscious state, but in a subconscious state, they're aware of it. And when I'm talking about subconscious, let's put it in pure context. They're super conscious, which is basically the higher aspect of themselves. And it doesn't matter if they are even soulless, or that the fact they don't have an actual secondary soul, which is basically the human soul, or the one that reincarnates over and over again and all that stuff on planet Earth. Even if it doesn't have that, it's still connected to many, or connected to the what we call the collective souls, but it's at the same time, they will work with all the other souls that are here. So it doesn't matter. There's still a higher consciousness that is communicating, and they play whatever role they're playing. So to understand all of this, all that's playing out right now is really bringing things to the surface in a very powerful way. What happens? The illusionary veils start to crumble. The whole, the Holy Almighty that we may have created as an illusion for individuals, for a party, for experts or anything of that nature, starts to lose and become more transparent. This is what the disclosure kind of thing comes in. More transparency. Trying to find the word sometimes. Transparency. So you're going through. So what is the transparent part? Well, as much as the mainstream and all of this programming and so forth has created illusionary veils or illusionary pictures above the pictures. So here you are. Let me give you an example. As you know, no artist here. So we are looking. So this is, say this is reality. This is what we are seeing as reality. This is our reality, our collective reality. Collective. Now, the collective reality, of course, is very much a reflection to what we're collectively projecting. However, you will notice that people are taking somewhat sides, or there are other people that are involved that can see one thing which others don't see. I'm sure you're experiencing this every day. Wherever you go, you see people that are so convinced and believed and projecting a certain way of life, and you're looking at it and say, can't you see that it's not like that? Can't you see that you're kind of being somewhat of a puppet, I guess, if you want to use that as a word? Can't you see it? Well, that's the thing. What happens is there is a reality that has many dimensions in it. What does that mean? That means this reality has layers, and when I'm talking about layers, there's several movies playing at the same time on top of each other. So as you're tapping into certain frequencies in your own consciousness, so that means you're now shifting to a higher dimension, you see the movie differently. You see the actors, but they're playing a different role as in the actors, but not all the actors will be there. Some actors will not be there because the fact that they do not fit into that movie or that overlay of movie. So here you are, okay, you're seeing this collective, you can see through certain things, but a lot of the people are still looking at, let's use a different color, are using different layers. Now, what put this in there, say the mainstream, okay? The mainstream programming, education, whatever, okay? Whoa. Well, that's a mess there. Let's fix that up. The mainstream, is that correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so the mainstream is projecting these layers. Education, our experiences, our labels, and so forth. So what they're looking at is altering this reality to look a very different way. Now, their personal third dimension, fifth, inverted 3D or 2D as being because all of this, you have to understand, if you are in this reality, which you call the inverted 2D or inverted 3D, giving a lot of power, and it will, being here, your vibration and frequency will be very different. Your axis of consciousness is going to be very different. So this reality is going to look different to you than it would somebody else that is focused in 3D or organic 3D or organic 5D or even organic 5D and tapping into higher. So and then the other thing is these layers are beliefs, perceptions, ideas, concepts, and stuff, whatever we've adopted during our conditioning and programming while we played the game. So this also becomes a factor. Not only are we seeing this movie different, we're also seeing it through different. So say these were color spectrums. This is an example. Color spectrums. Now it's going to change the richness of this color. You know, if you go through several colors, it may dim it or it may change its coloration. It may even remove some of the spectrums that you would see. Now, sometimes with this, it would also add certain characters there. So this is why we're talking about dimensions, because we have multiple dimensions playing out in our reality. Now you have multiple dimensions within you. How does that work? Well, let's look at it this way. Pay attention to yourself for a moment. How many times have you felt excited, felt that in one way or another that everything looked like play, looked like this is going to be fun, this is going to be easy to do, or something of that nature. And other times you will see yourself overwhelmed in anxiety, feeling that this is a struggle, that is hopeless, that is this or that. Those are not only your vibration and frequency, but it's the consciousness that you're activating within yourself. Now, let's take it one step further. When you're in that state, say the lower state, let's start off with that. If you're in the lower state, accessing less consciousness. Now, you have to understand, each level of these consciousness is more pure access to your source essence, as we call the spirit. Spirit is source essence in creation. Now, the more you access that part, you now become more empowered. Now you know more clearly, not only that you are source, but you are a creator. Spirit creates. You are that creator. But you're not only the creator, you are your own creation. That means you've created yourself and everything around you, and you are the observer of this creation to utilize that creation to expand and grow and become more enlightened. That is your natural state. So the more you go into your higher dimensions, you are going to see things differently. So let's bring it back to that example I was going to give you. Now you're in that lower state, you're going to see things differently. What people call problems, let's select a problem. Say, I have this problem. I may be unemployed, whatever. Okay? So if that is just as an example or something else, but let's use that one as an example, I'm unemployed. Now, if you're in that lower state, you're going to feel defeated. You're going to feel hopeless. You're going to put focus on the fact that you are going to go in survival. You're going to end up in the streets. You're going to be losing everything. And then in that state, you don't see opportunities. You don't even see yourself as a creator. You see yourself as a victim to whatever that was. The boss that fired you, or the job that's obsolete, or the business that closed because of, some virus, whatever it is. So in that state, your sourceness is there. Your creator part is accessed. Even though it's still there, all of it is there, but you're not accessing any of it. So you're lowering this frequency. Now, of course, if you heard enough that, you don't have a job, you don't have this, that it means something, then these become very active. So that reality looks very hopeless, very limited in opportunities, limited in potentialities. In the fact, you actually go into fear and survival. That's the difference. Now, some of us, what happens is you do something gets activated or something of that nature, or you actually are tapping more into you. So you go into that other state, and we've all had both, okay, and different gradients in between. Now you go into that state, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, okay, great. I am free from something I didn't actually like. And now I have much more opportunity. So now you're looking at the freedom rather than the victim without a job that's going to go into survival, going to go in poverty, end up on the streets and whatever, lose everything. Now you're looking at it and say, okay, great. Let me reinvent myself. Let me look at what else I can do. Maybe I can do something totally different and so forth. So what happens, you dissolve a lot of these, so you're seeing it much more clearly, but you're now tapping into a higher dimensional consciousness. So this reality, instead of looking at being defeated and feeling it within yourself, you're looking at, great, look at these potentialities. The higher you go, the less limited you feel. That means you can create and shift anything. Now, I know there's a bit of confusion what that looks like, because a lot of people get caught up in the idea that it has to be difficult, or that, you have to be extra skilled or something of that nature. But we're talking about something different here. We're talking about accessing to a point where you are looking even outside of whatever's been taught. Well, if you work hard and you focus and you go do what you love or whatever it is, you're going to be successful and you're going to pull out of this and so forth. It goes beyond that. It goes into, this is my current situation and this is my beautiful stage. I'm going to acknowledge His presence. I'm going to be in a complete appreciation for this. I'm going to bathe in the love of this beautiful creation. And now I'm going to look at how I want to shape it. There's no fear involved. There is no limits involved. How do I want to shape it? How am I going to shape my life that matches who I am today? What I am in the highest grand of myself. Very different view. Just to give you another example, you may have had a situation come up. Yeah, maybe at first, these things that you may have heard or whatever it is may change your vibration and so forth, and you may feel like, oh my God, how am I going to handle this problem? But then as sometimes something else gets triggered or something gets triggered, and it's like, okay, it is what it is. Let me find how I can use this, how I can shift this. And it can, because at that point, you're now using different resources. You're now tapping into a higher state of resources that does not give power to limits and all of that stuff. You're now tapping into something much more powerful within yourself. And that shifts your dimension. Go ahead.
Deepa, if I pronounced it correctly, is asking, what does success look or feel like in the higher dimension? The idea of success in the old matrix is so strong. When I reinvent myself but still get caught up with the old success measures, I end up falling out of the higher state.
Yes. So in the higher states, there's no such thing as failure or success. Okay? Because on the higher, you understand you are a creator. What do? You create realities. You create opportunities of experience. You create opportunities to advance and become more enlightened. So you create it and then you experience it. Therefore, you're always progressively creating. It doesn't put into the measures. The failure and success part was a plug-in of the inverted matrix. The idea of making mistakes is a plug-in of the inverted matrix. There are no mistakes. You create a reality and you create that reality, you experience it. Now, that experience may shift you in a sense of saying, well, in my current state of consciousness, in my ego state, this is the choice I'm going to make. Well, that choice may give you a very intense experience or whatever it may be. And then at that point in time, that experience is going to give you an opportunity to reevaluate and shift yourself so that you're not giving power to the ego, or the fact that you're going to expose to yourself certain older programs and so forth that you have taken on as part of the experience which you want to transform. So every choice, every action serves to the degree it serves. Now you could turn around and say, well, I made a choice and I made a mistake because I went down this path and I said something I shouldn't have said or done something else. Well, the only reason you made those choices because there was a certain influential time. Oh, okay, this is where I've noticed some of the things I need to adjust within myself so I can shift it. So this is the thing. The past for us, like when we're looking at the past, it is hugely influential for us because the past, for most of us, has been mainly focused on this. And it has a lot of different emotional charges and so forth. So no matter what choices you made or didn't make in your past does not matter. It's where you are now, this moment, who you are at this moment. Whatever it took to get you there was what it took you there. Now, if there's some unfinished business or something of that nature, it's not about going in to fix anything. It's to let go of whatever that represented. And if you need to shift anything with somebody, you do that, but you do it with ease, not as a failure. Now, you could turn around and say, well, okay, yes, we played a particular role or whatever that may be. But at the same time, you're actually looking at it very differently. Go ahead.
Belinda's asking, Franco, it seems that those pulled into victim are the ones still asleep. How can they wake up if they keep being manipulated and pulled into fear? They don't have you, Franco, and they seem to be a huge majority. What is it going to change for them to see beyond the veils and not get pulled into the fear which continues to keep the old inverted matrix alive?
Okay, it's a good question, Belinda. Thank you for that. Well, you have to understand. A lot of these ones that are still holding that energy is actually holding that polarity to a certain degree so that others will have the opportunity to move forward. Now, it doesn't matter if they're, caught up in the fear, get caught up on whatever they're receiving constantly in the mainstream, constantly in whatever else, and they're not accessing higher consciousness. They're building a bank. It's like it starts to get heavier and heavier and heavier for them to stay there. For example, I got that. Okay, so what are we looking at? What's happening for individuals? Let's use that. So if they're playing very much in this, they're in lower vibration. They may be holding on to the past because most people do to some degree or another. But here they are. not only their vibration, but their access point is limited. What's happening is many of us are already illuminating the reality and that higher order, that higher way of creation, a higher way of expression. First part. So this is upgrading. So they're getting some of this feedback, even though there may be a lot of fear interfering it. The other thing is, we're having a lot of energetic bursts. We're having a lot of higher spectrums of light. We're having a lot of stimulation of consciousness. We're having a lot of bringing back online, say, our DNAs and a lot of the chakras to create adjustments and so forth while it's being used. All of that is creating adjustments in them so that a lot of these things start to lose their capacities. Now, there's many souls, and like you said, large numbers, that are still seeing through all of these illusions and only accessing a certain part of it. But I can tell you one thing, and if you've noticed, more and more people are so-called becoming more awake or more observant of what's going on beyond the veils. At the same time, what's happening is a lot of the ones that held on to that lower state are finding it that it's overwhelming and it's too heavy to carry, and they get to the point of, what the heck, I'm not going to even focus there anymore. Okay? So look at this thing about the lockdowns and everything else. First, there was such a level of compliance going on throughout the world, different degrees in different places. Now you're noticing that more and more people are choosing not to comply. More and more people are shifting from the mainstream to access something else. More and more people are saying, I'm done with this. I'm choosing to be free. So what happens is, this is pushing small world, lockdown. You cannot be with others and so forth. You can push that to a certain degree. Now, if we were in the old days, and when I say old days, what we created before as a collective, where we weren't being exposed to higher levels of consciousness and frequencies and so forth, we could have gone into that, I can't think of the word right now, but that world where, dictatorships and whatever else controlling everything that we do, our access and so forth, which is people are talking still about this new world order or this dystopian, is that the correct word? Dystopian reality and so forth, where you're controlled by certain individuals or governments or groups of that nature. That can be presented and some people can buy into it. But for how long? And this is what's happening now. Because of everything else that's going on, to stay in there, it's not going to be possible the further we go. Because it's the push within ourselves and the vividness of this restriction against their choice of utilizing their free will and their sovereignty, which continues to grow, is going to oversee any restriction, oversee any dictatorship, any authority, government, or anything of that nature. And this is why it's been speeded up. Two sides to it. First, to keep us compressed as much as possible, but at the same time, that compression also saturates, and then there's that evolution or that eruption that occurs. Now, the eruption may start off with, anger, that's it, I'm done with this. But at the same time, it's like, I'm breaking free and I do not care. And that's what's really kind of playing out at this point in time in a very powerful way. And you were going to say something? No?
Just had a question.
You had a question? Okay. In a very powerful way. So that this suppression, oppression that's being expressed at this point in time is really getting people more powerfully to the point of saying, enough. Okay? Because you have to understand, and I've shown it in other episodes, that the so-called control structure is a very small group that uses some powerful tools, but these tools only have power once we give it power. And many of us are giving power or have been giving power, but a lot of us are taking back that power. And when I say taking back the power, you're shifting away from the power that is being illusionarily projected, and you're tapping into your empowered state, your own power of saying, no, I create my own reality on my own terms, rather than accepting what you're telling me how to create my world. This is why you're seeing a lot of the children, even in the educational world, are rejecting education. Because you have to understand, education is a way to shape you to think, feel, respond, and to take on particular roles and not to question anything. So it's like the cookie cutter thing that, is talked about. To create that, of course, what's happening? The kids are starting to rebel, or in essence, not choosing to support or comply. They're not choosing to take all that in. That's happening all over the place in adults and others. So it's not only the education, but also any rules and laws and structures that are being projected. People are starting to break out of it more and more because of the fact that it does not resonate for them, and they're done. They're tired, if you want to call it that, but that's not the right word. They're done. They've reached their saturation point. This was fun, but I'm moving on. Take an example. How many of us have felt in a relationship or within a group or so forth that you may have been totally into it, enjoyed it, had a blast with it and so forth, but then it continued to create certain things that did not match you, that didn't feel in resonance. Now you get to the point and say, okay, I'm not going to give power to religion, I'm not going to give power to the family, I'm not going to give power to my partner, whoever that may be, any longer. And then you walk away, or you shift things to bring it in order to match who you are. This is what's happening on a larger scale on the planet. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a couple questions, but so from Sharmini, will there be many souls checking out as part of the transition to the new earth? How is this going to play out this year? Will there be a split in our own experience, or is everyone coming along for the ride to the new earth?
Well, we're already in the new earth. It's not like we have to go anywhere. We're already in the new earth. New earth is tuned. It has two channels. It has organic 3D and organic 5D. The thing is, to experience that new earth, we have to bring it through us. That means that we have to now, like, here's the movie. The movie has new earth. Okay? And it has the old earth in it. Let's put it down here. Old earth, as people call it. The old earth is not anymore supported. However, we're still seeing it because of all these filters that we may have in ourselves. The new earth is there. But for us to access that channel, that frequency, it's a matter of us changing. And then us changing actually take a different role to emphasize that new world. So the new world is in a box. It's partially open. Part of it is radiating out. It's already there. It's been delivered. Okay? It's been delivered and somewhat unwrapped. But now we have to unfold it and start plugging it into the reality. So you're building your reality around that new earth, the new codes, the new way of life, new consciousness. Gaia is already emitting this new earth. It's already there. It's been tuned and refined over and over again. Many of us, are coming to that point where we can unravel or open up that new world so that we actually end up experiencing. Now, of course, because of this, you have this world, you have this world, you have this world. These are the platforms. These are the only two platforms supported. This is non-existent. This is illusionary. This is still within us as the operating system, which is still very much ego, which is artificial intelligence. That's the part here that's still keeping this looking like it's still there. Plus, we're supporting each other. Plus, the fact we're putting a lot of focus on the mainstream, which the mainstream is tuned to continue to use this and to project it, but it's illusionary. It's not there. As for the thing about people checking out, you have to understand, okay? People will leave whenever they're done. Now, there's several levels of completion. If the physicality is no longer beneficial for the higher vibration because of whatever it's gone through, it will choose to leave. the physicality will become non-functional. The human entity will at that point have the opportunity to say, what do I do? Do I shift to something else, or do I go and connect with the collective and then come through another stream? Same thing with the soul. The soul will decide if it's going to go on or not at one point or another, do an exchange, or in fact go back to say to the soul family, to the oversoul, and then create another choice point after going through filtration, or what we call, that's not the word filtration, but a shedding, or whatever it's called. Letting go of the old strands of the old world that it's done. Now, when we're coming to the extras, which are 63% of the people on the planet at this point in time, they don't have a signature, unique soul, and they don't have a signature, unique human entities, right? So they're connected to the collective part. They're only playing a role. What happens for them? You say, well, those all 63%, which is a large number in comparison to how many active, because we only have 550 million playing in this. There's like 2 point something million there, and then the rest of it are 63%, which works out to whatever number at this point, 5 billion something. So when you're looking at that, what happens to the extras? The extras will either, at some point or another, if they're not required, they'll start to disappear. Some will check out. Some will just stop existing. It doesn't even have to go through a death process, because they won't even be noticed, because it's a holographic projection that will disappear. We may, at that point in time, think that there is almost 8 billion people on the planet. Well, what happens is, it won't be that. You actually pay attention to it. Because a lot of them, out of that 8 or 7.7 billion or 7.5, whatever it is at this point in time, a good chunk of them are just basically there because they're playing a role for us. And when I say for us, it's not saying, well, they don't have, they're part of it. They're an expression of you also. Just because they don't have a specific signature, they're still part of spirit. It's still spirit, which is source creation. There's nothing outside of that. It doesn't matter if you're saying the darkest and the most despicable role player, alien or otherwise, spirit or otherwise, is still source. It's still spirit. If it takes a form, it has an energetic input, it is still spirit. It's still part of all source, because source is everything that is. It cannot exist without it. So, will there be departures? There already are, much more than is even being projected. But you will also notice there's going to be more and more adjustments. How long is it going to take? It depends on how all of us come into line. Now, the other option is, a lot of these will have drop-ins come in. For example, you're going to have an extra that has finished its job and it's still very viable and can be contributing to this new so-called new world that's unfolding. Then a soul from another dimension can drop in and take on the body, and a human entity can be assigned, which is a earthbound soul that will take in and bring in the skill sets of navigating through the human experience. And then, of course, the body now becomes online to the degree where it is active, in the sense, not active just because it exists, active in creating that new world. Now, even the extras are active in a way because they're playing a role for the ones that are active, or the ones that are actually having the experience. Now, what better way than have the extras, okay, to play particular roles, to push your buttons, to reveal within you all the rest of the inverted matrix, inverted 3D, 2D that you still have in yourself. Look at it this way. If you have emotional charges, if you have judgments, if you have stories, programs, belief systems, perceptions, labels, definitions of yourself that are somewhat shaping your current reality, those are all the old stuff. And those role players are going to push us to the point so that those become exposed, come to the surface so that you can actually see it, take the gem out of it, and let it go. No longer controlling it. Now, you need really a lot of this active to maintain this, because these filters were all created through the inverted matrix, inverted 3D, 2D that we've had for 10,000 years. So as we get rid of the programs, these things start to disappear. And then you get to see reality much more clearly with much more possibilities and opportunities to create something much more, so that you're actually accessing this new world and expanding the new world. And the old world fades away. You have to understand, the old world is gone. It's gone. We are projecting from our old way of seeing the world to still be there. It's an optical illusion, in a sense, which has created realities based on it. So the reason we're still seeing the old world is because the old world is still being projected from a collective perspective. But many of us are doing so personally too. So as you're going through the changes, your reality changes. Your world around you starts to change. Maybe not as much as what the collective may show, but your reality, that means what you focus, what you see, how you access that part of you shifts. And then you are now navigating much more aligned with the truer essence of yourself. Because this is what the process is about. The process that we're going through is refining and bringing to the surface the true essence. All of us have come here to experience this playground. Not only to experience, to learn from it, to become skilled on how it plays. But we've all come here to also provide a skill, provide a certain frequency, to provide an opportunity to be part of this transformation that's going on from a human perspective and what we call the human reality and the planetary reality or planetary playground. So all we've done is we've gone through getting our feet wet, understanding how everything works so that we can now change it. And this is the thing. Now, I know there are souls here that are star seeds, and there are souls here that were tuned before coming here as indigo, as crystal, as, what's the other one? Rainbow, and so forth. And there was another one too. There was anyways, some from the angelic realms and so forth that have come here to kind of play the game for a very small duration and also play a smaller role, but to also maintain their main frequency, their main direction of why they came here, to really facilitate. Because when you're coming onto a planet where many have gotten lost in the game, they will come in and play a very specific role. And some of you on this particular call right now, or whatever we want to call it on this episode, that are watching it, may be one of them that has come in very specifically. Some have come from other dimensions. Some have come from other parts of the galaxy. Some have come even from different universes to participate. Now, some of you already had this experience in a sense where you were on a planet that has gone through an evolutionary process to the point where they're, and so you have a skill set, even though you may not have activated all of it, but it's coming online to be able to play that role. So there's a lot going on in regards to that. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
No, there was another question.
Go ahead.
So Mena's asking, so this means if we're clear that we don't, that they don't have power over us, we won't face any opposition issue as in traveling or wearing masks.
Well, yes. The thing is, the first level of it, as you are clearing your stuff, you're not going to have a resistance to whatever's going on. Because what's the resistance about? Well, it's unfair. They're mandating. I'm a victim. I got to fight. I got to get pissed off. I got to be angry. All of those things are playing out. How do they play out? Those are the programs. Those are the stories. Those are the conditioning of responses that we've taken on. So if you clear all your programs, absolutely, then the game's a game. You see it as a game. Now, in most cases, what you're going to do is wherever you're interacting or whatever it is, you will have less and less resistance to the point in some cases you won't even be noticed that you're not wearing a mask or that you haven't been, say, vaccinated or whatever the story may be at that point in time. To that point. In other ways, it's saying, okay, well, this is the playground. I'm entering that playground. And you have to understand, a lot of times when we're entering the playground, you're already making changes in the playground, even if you put that darn mask on. And this is why I've said, you have the mask on, you can smile. This was Kimberly's share there. You can smile, you can feel the love for everybody there. If you are judging everybody because you see people panicking or you see people putting on these masks or yelling, saying, oh, you better have it, make sure you mask because you're killing people or anything like that. And if you have judgment around that, if you have a resistance to that, or if you're in one way activated by that, then your automatic operating systems, all these program stories, belief systems, everything that still reacts to this, that is programmed to that, is still coming up to the surface. But if you're neutral at that point, you get to see. You're in the movie, you're watching everybody playing, and you have a genuine love, a genuine appreciation for their role. Please understand, people forget. We've all gone through it at one point or another in our lives, where we give so much power to whatever was going on that we may have reacted. We may have been super judgmental. We may have felt that, oh my God, if somebody's not following the rules, they're jeopardizing my life, or something of that nature. Anyways, there are different degrees, of course. But all of us have gone through it at one point or another, but we forget. And now it's like, well, I'm awoke now, I've got here, and I know what's going on, and look at all these idiots. Well, you hear that from all over the place, but that's still polarizing it, and you're still in judgment. You're still operating in that inverted matrix operating system. But if you're in that point, you see it as a game. You watch everybody play out the game, but you're holding a certain energy because you're in love. You're in love with the dance, the movie around you, the video game around you, and that starts to change and relax people. And you're going to notice that you're triggering within them self-questioning, self-observation, looking at the mainstream stuff very differently. And we've all gone through it. Now you can look at it, the mainstream, and you can say, oh, I'm not giving power to that. How many people are not afraid of this thing that's going on right now, or has been going on for almost a year now? Are not even getting caught up in the fear. Or they were at one point, but they're not now. What's happened? It's changing so that you're not giving value, power, and it controlling you in any way or shape. That applies to anything. So this is the thing, is when you're holding the space, you get onto the airplane, if you have to wear the mask, you put it on, whatever that is, you're smiling, you're in love and genuine, and then at some point you may be able to drop it, or you'll notice others will, whatever. If not, you're still in your bliss while you're there, and you're creating a change with everybody on that airplane. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, too, there's other people coming up with ways to sidestep that particular system. Like, I was just listening to something that was posted on our group chat, which was Professor Dolores Cahill, How to Travel Freely, No Mask, No Test, No Quarantine. So there are ways to not buy into their system. It's just we have to do our research and find out what that is, because we're almost like operating in two different worlds at once. And so I think it's doing some research as well. What do you feel about that?
In that level of playing of the game, you say, okay, well, let me find
I will
a way
post
around
that link, by the way.
What's that?
I'll post the link in the chat.
She'll post the link. You can look at different resources. How can I do it, and so forth. Some people ask, well, if I put on the mask, will I be complying? Yes and no. Compliance is, oh, I'm going to put it on and feel whatever it comes involved with that. And if you got judgment and so forth, now you're saying, well, I don't agree with this, but I'm still putting it on. But if you put it on, and I'm saying only when you feel that you have to, or you're entering that playground where you're not allowed to because you're still not invisible yet, because you're still working through your stuff, which we're all working on, then at that point in time, you're still going to be okay with that. You know, and that's the thing. So it doesn't restrict you. Now, of course, there's going to be other avenues, which Kimberly was sharing, that you will be able to use where you don't have to. But you know, you have to understand, even when you're doing that, even the so-called authoritative figures that may be, say, on the airline as the example, and say, well, you got to wear the mask, and you may have those exemptions, you're going to find that other people, depending on what state you're in, may reflect on you something different, and it doesn't matter how many things you have. So this is where the neutrality comes in, where you are in a state of love and oneness, seeing that there are just aspects of yourself. So use things, but be at that point where you are not controlled by what is mandated, what is happening around you, and what anybody else says or does. Okay, so that's the point I wanted to make. Does that make clear for you? Okay, so that was the introduction. So I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm going to move this over here. Do I have that? Where's the other ones? Ah, they're there. Perfect. Okay, cool. Okay, so I make notes here so that I make sure I cover everything that I say I'm going to cover, even in my write-up and so forth. So the first thing, what dimensional plane are you playing in? That's a question you ask yourself. What dimensional plane am I playing in? Am I playing in what the mainstream and what the collective is still projecting? Am I tapping into that inverted 2D, inverted 3D, inverted matrix dimension? Or am I more crystal clear in the organic matrix and being organic 3D and organic 5D? That's kind of thing. But the dimensions too is like the movie I was showing you, is what channel within the movie are you seeing? Are you seeing the new world? Are you still seeing the old world? I can tell you right now, and I've said it already, if you're going to give a lot of power to the mainstream media and whatever is being said, you're going to shift your dimension. You're going to see the old world much more clearly with just minuscule glimpse of the new world. You shift your dimension. And what that means is dimension of consciousness, and your reality will reflect that dimension of consciousness. You're going to see the station that you're on. What do I mean by that? Television, radio, as an example, you turn the dial, or in those cases maybe there's no more turning of the dial. If you switch stations, you're going to watch different things. Each station has a different representation, presentation for you. So that's what you're doing. So if you're going to give a lot of power to everything that's being said, you're now going into that lower dimension, and your world is going to reflect that dimension. You're going to respond that. You're going to give more value to the old world that's still within you. Because what are we doing? Remember I was saying all of that inverted 3D, 2D stuff? That's all the old world. And within us, we have both. This is what we're purging. We're purging the old world so that we can utilize the new world. So when I come to that, what do you mean by that? It goes back to that. When you get triggered, the tendency, until you clear this up, is to go into the old world. The old world is fearful. The old world is polarized. The old world is survival. The old world is fighting. The old world is you can't trust anybody. The old world is you're alone and you have to do this by yourself. The old world is going to say that others have power over you, control over you. You have no say in the matter. The old world says if you try to change something, people are going to put you back into your place or anything of that nature. That we are slaves. That's what the old world is saying. And the old world is going to say, no, you have no freedom. You're not the creator. You're just the experiencer. And we tell you what you can create. We tell you what you can experience. That's what the old world is saying. The old world, like I said, it's the inverted matrix and the inverted 3D and 2D. That's what the old world is. This new world consists of the organic 3D and organic 5D and above. But that's all in you. It's not outside of you. It's all in you. You know all these energies that we're getting, all of these encodements, all these activations that we're experiencing, all these intensifications that we're going through, all these bursts we're getting to? What is it doing? It's turning on as much as possible that new world. But you know what the new world is? It's the new you. It's the you that has been dormant. The you that wants to come out of the closet. The you that wants to illuminate and be part of that new world. Experience every part of it. That's what it is. So that's what is going on. Because you're choosing to go organic. Organic. You want to go organic. True design. No manipulation. No other things. We were organic. We started off in organic 3D 15,000 years ago. We had a window of 5,000 years where we were kind of going 3 into 4 dimensional before the introduction of that inverted world came about, where, you know, a lot of us had chosen to, hey, let's go play. I can tell you one now, every human entity that you have within yourself was part of that decision. Every physical form was part of that decision. Some of the souls that are interdimensional souls, multidimensional, whatever you want to call it, may have been involved, but not all. It's a portion of it. Okay? So, the question you ask yourself whenever you're having something playing out in you, what dimension am I playing in? Am I in a higher dimension or a lower dimension? If it's emotionally charged, if you're feeling defeated, you're feeling small, you're feeling, a victim or anything like that, you're now playing in the lower dimension. Realize that. Oh, I'm playing in the lower dimensions. How do I raise my dimension? First and foremost, you can do, like I've said it many times in many of the different episodes. What are you going to do? You embody your soul. Soul, fully embody. Activate home frequency to the fullest degree that I can handle in this physical form right now, because it's going to continue. I now activate within myself my highest version of myself, the highest source essence within myself. Body fully engaged. That's aligned. That's play. We're going to higher dimensions. We're going to access that higher dimension that's already within us. We're going to access that. Let me experience it from that. So that's why you ask this question. What dimension am I playing in? Ask yourself very often that question as you're doing today. Because many of us easily go into the lower dimensions. Easy gets caught up in the matrix. You hear something, you experience something, guess what? You're going to go into the lower dimensions. But the point is, you go into the lower dimensions, so you recognize the lower dimensions, so then you can adjust it from there and say, okay, now I'm not going to play there anymore. You're not going to have any judgments about the lower dimensions. You're just paying attention. You're being the observer. And of course, if you're going to get triggered and old programs come up and so forth, you're going to drop in dimensions, but that's great. That's opportunity for you to see what you have to see. So this is a very powerful tool whenever you're going through life. If you're listening to all this stuff on the media at this point in time, it doesn't matter what side they're on, and it's shifting you, it's lowering your dimension access point. And again, like dimension is consciousness. Now, dimension is not consistent. We all can play in fifth dimensional consciousness. All of us, in one degree or another, will use that consciousness or that dimensional consciousness and create different realities accordingly. Now, there is a harmonious balance within it, but it's going to be personalized. And the same thing, like if you're looking at other planets that are, say, in fifth dimensional consciousness, for example, their experience is going to be very different. Why? First of all, the planet's frequency is different. What they have as resources are different. Their physicality is different. The wiring is different. The software is different. The matrix is different. So they have a higher level of consciousness in realization of themselves as source, but they can play with what the game presents for them at the highest level, but they're different. So fifth dimension on a different planet is going to be very different to how we play here. So keep that in mind. So what dimension are you playing in? Ask yourself the question. With all this is unfolding, as unfolding very recently, with all of this, all that is unfolding and has unfolded up very recently, people's expectations and projections of a specific outcome may have not gone as expected, the expected direction. Look at what happened. How many things, how many people thought that, hey, there was a shoo-in of a certain person coming back in power. That doesn't mean it's thrown out the window yet, but at the same time, there was a lot of people that had expectations going one way or another. How many times we have expectations that our life is going to go a certain way, that our relationship is going to go a certain way, that our opportunities are going to go a certain way, that certain people are going to come into our life and change things for us. And when we don't get it, what happens? Many things happen. So, for many, it has shifted their state of being and may have shifted their focus. Look at the focus that's happened within a lot of us. May have felt disappointment, may have felt let down, may have felt that we've been lied to. That those beings don't care, or that whoever was playing the roles don't care. I'm not saying that you didn't. A lot of people have. It shifted our state from hopeful to disappointment. But remember, hopeful, what does that mean? Hopeful is putting hope, okay, in something overseeing or happening or someone coming into place to fix things, change things, or bring a certain outcome. That's not what we're built on. We're not built on hope. We're built as creators. We're built as source essence. We are in charge. We create. Oh, I hope that helps. I hope this comes along. I hope this changes. I hope all these dense people die off or disappear. I hope the right people come in and fix things for me. That's not our true design. Our true design is, okay, let's take a look at what's playing out right now. Who's doing what, who's doing whatever, what are my options, what are my capabilities, how do I start to apply it, to shape it and direct it. I am the molder. I am the one that decides how it's going to look and shape and come to fruition. That's really our true design. You're not hoping for a savior. You're not hoping for certain things. I hope my higher self is going to take care of me. You got to access that knowing that your higher self is going to support you whatever you're doing. But a lot of times the support that we get, it may not be what we conceived as an idea that that's how it should look like. Because most of the time that is the ego's version. Well, I trusted my soul or a higher self and I ended up having a negative experience. Yeah, so your higher self deceived you. No, they didn't. Your higher self constructed was ideal for you so that it would give you the opportunity to address whatever may have been there that was necessary to shift, to show you how much of the old world still existed in you. That's all. So, with all that has been unfolding, many have shifted their states and have shifted their focus. So their focus, instead of focusing on themselves and how do I take empowered state and action at this point in time and create my reality, to the point of changing the focus. Oh my God, we're doomed, we're this, we're that, we got disappointed, we got left out, in the cold or whatever, whatever analogies people want to plug into or whatever it is. You have to understand, any shift in focus shifts our dimensional plane and our involvement. Here we are creating this new world. Guess what? Things happen. We shift back to survival, to fear, to anger, to fight, to judgment. And guess what? Our involvement of unfolding that new world turns off. What are we doing? We're supporting the old world. We're going from here to here. You're here to be true to this, because that's what you are choosing to do from a higher perspective rather than going back to that. So what happens? You listen to so-called let-down news. Your involvement to unfold and unpack this stops, and you keep reinforcing this one. The one that you had for so long. Very different. So that's, you have to pay attention to, because it's not only the question of what dimension I'm in. What am I focusing on? What am I giving energy to? Is it the new world, the old world? New world, old world. Which one am I focusing on? Oh, it's the old world. Okay, I see it. Then you shift it. No, I'm going to support the new world. This is why I talk about the new world, in the sense you have to tap into your creative ability and see how that world looks like. And that world in its true state is not going to look very much the same as what we have now. Meaning, all of a sudden everybody's got wealth, everybody's got toys, everybody's got that. No, and it's not going to be that we're all living off the land or so forth. It's going to be something very spectacular, which we all have inside of us, which each of us are taking a role to unfold that. There seems to be a tendency in putting faith in people, organizations, interventions, and specific outcomes to improve things, to redirect our lives and well-being. Does that ever happen? Probably?
Yes, of course it does.
And that's what's happening. We're putting in faith to some deity, to some authority figure, to some organization, to some partner, to certain playmates in our life. We put on all of that to say, well, you know something? Or intervention, even the so-called alien intervention. Oh, they got to come in and fix this. They got to get rid of all these dark dark role players. Get rid of the cabal. Get rid of all the different elites. Get rid of all these nasty politicians and fake gurus and fake authority figures. How many of us have been in wait for specific outcomes to improve and redirect our lives? Let me ask you the question. How many of you truly, from the heart part, would like somebody to come and fix everything for you? If you're being true to yourself and you're tuning into that and say, well, I'm waiting for somebody something, organization, group, whatever, intervention to fix something. When you're tuning in, you'll see it's not that way. Yes, give me some clarity. Yes, maybe support me to kind of have a further realization, but I want to do this myself. I want to be right in there to create. I want to be the one that's shaping this. Because I'm not disempowered. No, 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 no. I want to access my higher level of sourceness in this expression and experience. Why do you think our brother, sister souls on other dimensions, from other planets, with all these beautiful ships that are all over the place, have not made themselves as visible yet? Well, there's several reasons, but we're not going to go into all the reasons. But at the same time, they could have came in and cleaned everything up, fixed everything up, and so forth. But the thing is, does it empower us or disempower us? Do we put a reliance and a dependency rather than self-empowerment? You have to understand, they don't want to disempower us as much as you don't want to disempower someone in your life. You want to empower. So we'll take away the stuff that can potentially bring you over the edge, but we're not going to fix it for you. We're going to stimulate the dormant aspects of yourself. Yes, we're going to do certain parts. Yes, we may take certain things out of the equation to give you a little bit of breathing space so that you can utilize more of your capacities. The hedging towards you, we can minimize a little bit of that so that you have a little bit more room to play. But that's all you're going to do. So it's not about waiting for anybody. It's not, having faith in anybody. I came from a religious family, and I've, as much as I haven't given any power to it, Jesus Christ going to save us, this and that, or God, and there's Judgment Day, and there's the good and bad, and right and wrong, and all of that stuff. And a lot of people are still giving a lot of power to that. It's fine, it's an experience, it's a growth, it's an opportunity, whatever it is. But the thing is, how empowering is that? Most of all the visitors that have come here have shared consciousness, maybe some tools, reactivated certain parts, but they haven't taken away the experience. They haven't taken away the opportunity for you to become self-empowered, because that would not serve the grander aspect. Let's bring this up a bit. So when things do not play out according to their expectations, do we have any expectations, girl? No, nobody has expectations, right? Or projected faith, there's a tendency to slip into a state of disappointment or fight. Now, disappointment is not to be underrated. It's a pretty freaking cool experience. But don't swim in it too long, because it has a tendency to drain the life force out of you to a certain degree. So the point is, if you have disappointment, realize that you have created a dependency, and in some way or another, you have had a set of expectations. Because no expectations does not provide, without expectations, can't have the disappointment part, because you stay in empowerment. I've taught this before. In a relationship, you go into the relationship, in a true holistic relationship, being you. Not depending on somebody else to make you or to complete you. You're already going complete as you. Yes, that you is shaping, expanding, refining, growing, changing, all of that stuff. The partner that you are hooking up with or choosing to play with needs to be themselves, and let them work through that. So what I've said to you, drop any expectations. Yes, you can share how you would prefer to see things to a certain degree, but be open to what is presented. Now, if there's no alignment, then yeah, you choose other playmates. If there's an alignment of some sort, that's great, but you're not minimizing yourself, and you're not expecting somebody else to minimize or expecting somebody to complete you. Because if you're going in where somebody completes you, then you're going to go in already fractured or incomplete, which is an illusion, because that's not true. We are already all complete. Yes, you're going to join up with people to kind of play roles for each other, to advance each other, and to give us the opportunity to clear, purify, let go of all the other stuff that we've given a lot of power to, which was in the old world, because the old world also is an old you, but also all of it is totally ingrained in the inverted matrix, inverted 3D, 2D. So, it's about dropping any expectations or projected faith, and have a tendency, and dropping any disappointment. So if the disappointment comes in, or that you need to fight, then you need to look at why. Oh, I've put expectations there. If I have to fight, that means, oh, I've been wronged, or the fact that I'm disempowered, and if I don't fight, I'm not going to be empowered. Well, it doesn't work that way. You become empowered, and you start shaping your reality. Now, some things will be involved and other things will not. So that means if there's going to be somebody that you need to fight with at this point in time, you be your truest aspect of yourself. They usually change, but if they don't, or they shift not adequately to you, then you could say, okay, great dance, great experience, love you, see you later. And you shift along that. And that happens on all levels with many, many playmates that we have. All right, let's get to play with this other part. Okay, so right now, oops, let's use the colored one. Right now, many people have slipped into a state of disappointment, possible hopelessness, disillusion, while others feeling the need to fight. We've kind of covered that, so I don't have to elaborate on that. Many of us have. I can see it, I can feel it, it's around you. But that's great. That's a beautiful opportunity to create more saturation, more polarization, to actually give us the opportunity to shift. Have you seen people become more disappointed and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. How about hopelessness?
But then I've also seen them.
Go ahead.
Yes, I've seen them go into sadness and disappointment. But also, I have also seen the opposite, where they've dug in and gone into themselves more and feeling excitement again and taking that power back.
Yeah. That's a good point, because, a lot of us, what happens, a lot of people do, when they get into that state, they drop their attachment to what that was and says, okay, it's not going to be done. I'm going to have to do it myself. And when I say do it yourself, it's more like you said, Kimberly. You're tapping into yourself and say, okay, now it's time to use my gifts, my power, my capability, my empowered state, my sourceness, my essence, and my creator ability that I have. So that's really what it is. So as much as many have gone into that, oh, I have to fight the system or something of that nature, that doesn't mean that's just creating the lift that we're going to need. Because the thing is, how many of us have been expecting, and then it's not there, and say, okay, I don't know when it's going to happen, or if it's even going to happen. What am I going to do now? How am I going to shape my life at this point? Because it's really up to me. That's the whole point. It is up to us. Now, as more of us go into that state of up to us, then to ourselves, then we become more up to us. So more and more people are coming together to work together, no matter where they are in the world, to kind of unfold, unpack that new reality, that new world. Okay? So it can lead us into a state of giving up, more polarization, or into the primary purpose of self-empowerment. So that's the option. It can lead us into a state of more polarization, giving up, or the real reason that all of this is playing out and why we wanted to give it power to play out, so that we go into the purpose of self-empowerment, which is exactly what we've been talking about. Self-empowerment. Okay, that promotion, that thing that unfold, the savior didn't come or anything of that nature. Just give me a second here. I'm noticing I'm peeking here all the time. That savior didn't come along or anything of that nature. Okay, just make sure I'm all right. Didn't come along. So now what am I going to do with this?
Is it audio?
Is it coming through?
Is it audio? Under audio or under media?
No, it's under audio.
Okay. Yeah. It's not going that way.
Okay.
Okay, just carry on.
Okay. So, can you scroll that thing over? The bottom bar.
Scroll the bottom bar. This one?
I just want to see what's. We'll need a second mouse at one point. If you go right down below where the audios are, there's a little bar. You can't see it too far. Go down right there. Oops, you just passed it. A little bit further down. Right there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, scroll over. There you go. So now you can see all of that.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
So that's the one you have to adjust. All right. So what was I saying? I even forgot.
Talking about the primary purposes for self-empowerment.
Yes, yes. Okay. So the primary purpose of that. So you have the option. But the thing is, at this point, is that we're coming to that self-realization around that. Okay? The time has come for you to use your capabilities in shifting things to match your newer state of being, which will reshape your reality without fighting. So this is what we have agreed to really emphasize on a collective scale. It's time for us to tap into our capabilities, to use our capabilities. How many of us have come super programmed in capacities and capabilities that override most of it, or supersede, that's a better word, supersede most of the things that we've been utilizing as an experience? Because what's happened, all the programming, conditioning, and stuff that we've experienced has diminished our capacities to use our capabilities to a higher degree. It's only emphasized at a lower degree what we're capable of. So that's the thing. And right now it's saying, okay, now the point here is to shift things to match the newer state. The newer state of you, the new you that's coming out, that is focused on that new world, that's matching to that new world, that's going to unfold that new world. The new you. We're going through a birthing process. All of us. The birthing process is to bring forth the you that came here originally, that made the choice to be in a certain physicality, that has made the choice in the agreement with that particular human entity, which is the earthbound soul, and the soul that you've come in to play a powerful role, to really utilize that in a much more powerful way. So that state of you, that birthing of you, you're birthing that part. Because many of us have chosen not to birth completely, have birthed very little. Even though you came through the channels of birth, we didn't utilize the birthing of that source essence within ourselves. Even though it's there, and even though we are just pure spirit, pure spectrum of light that is creating from a source essence, but we didn't utilize many of it. Utilize the very minimal part of it. So this is the thing. We're bringing in that capacity. We're activating it within ourselves so that it matches the newer state. The newer state is basically the part that's birthing from you. It's the part that you came here to present and experience. The question is presented to you: what dimensional plane are you focused on and playing with right now? This is a question you ask yourself all the time. I know I talked about it right in the beginning. You ask yourself, what dimension of plane am I focused or playing with right now? We live only in the moment. That's where the action is. There is no past. There is no future. The future is to be created and written, as they say. The past was written and is only a memory. It does not exist. When they say the past and the future all exist now, that means there's only now. You can bring in and recreate the past or project an idea of what the future is, but it only exists now. This is the thing. And many of us have been conditioned and trained to use the past, and the ego, the artificial intelligence, has been a software program that has done that up to this point in time, to basically utilize the past. Now, it's not only your past. It's the past of your ancestors, the past of the collective, the past of everything that has been projected and utilized at one point or another, even going back thousands of years. We've been utilizing it and bringing it into the moment. So the question to ask yourself as you're going forward now, as you are moving forward, much wiser after watching this episode, much wiser. Are they much wiser?
Yes.
Absolutely. She's agreeing with me. Much wiser that you are now going to ask yourself, what dimension am I playing in? Am I playing in the inverted 2D, 3D? Am I still giving power and playing and getting all wrapped up in the inverted matrix, which everybody else is kind of projecting on a larger scale? Or am I going into my organic 3D and organic 5D? Both are beautiful, upgraded spectrums of or fields to play with. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what about 4D?
What about it?
What is there any place to play there? And what is it? Because we never talk about it too often.
Okay, so I chose to turn it off. There's 3D, 4D, and 5D. Okay, so there's organic. All right, so these are the two platforms we decided to support. Okay, this gives us more of a human physical experience in an advanced state. This gives you more of that in a source essence recognition space. This is kind of the bridging. Now, we all kind of bridge through it, but there's no real platform supporting it. This is a projection, transmissional dimension, because it was removed. So not to have an additional step, because this step was not required. Now, there are beings that control the planet and so forth that use this level of consciousness, but they're using it to kind of restrict us and to hold on to that inverted stuff that we were playing with. So, in fact, yeah, we can go through all of this, but there's no landing here. It's just a state of consciousness that does not support it for us to establish a reality within. But there's a consciousness there that you could utilize at some point or another in the transitional part. So you're not quite, you're kind of done with this, you're not quite ready for this, so you're tapping into this level of consciousness and bringing it into here. And because you're not finished with that, you may be bringing it into here, but these are the only two platforms that exist.
So you could use it to create a reality, the four
You can use
dimension.
parts of that to bring it to either one of your reality platforms, basically. That's it. And the same thing, we're also using that inverted 3D and 2D and inverted matrix And what we're doing, sorry about the tapping, but it's glass I'm writing on. Okay, so inverted matrix, inverted 3D, 2D. We can bring it into this playground, which we are doing, and we can bring it into this playground just to utilize it temporarily. But the thing is, these are the two baselines to work with. So you can tap this, and you can also use part of that. But the thing is, realistically, these are the two. And then at some point in time, this will merge into that, and there won't be an organic 3D anymore. Definitely not an organic 4D. The only thing that will exist is organic 5D, which all of that's supposed to be happening by 2035, where the merging will occur. And then there's a 5-year period. This is as it stands right now. It could change, it could upgrade, it could do whatever. By 2040, we'll be in everybody from this, from any of this, will be fully integrated into the 5D. So we'll be creating only from that level and beyond. We're not really going to be using any of that. But this stuff here is to be completed before we enter into 2023. That's the intent. That's the focus. This is where it's so instrumental and key for you to do the work within yourself. And when I say work, it's about really noticing what's driving you or bringing you to whatever dimensions, the older dimensions. So this is why I say the question to present to you is what dimension you're focused on and playing with right now. Where's your focus? Where is your energy applied? Because that will be very much reflected into your reality and what you utilize too. Because each dimension provides a different experience, a different access of sourceness or consciousness within yourself. So this is a question to ask yourself on a regular basis. Okay? Are you currently playing with the mainstream media plane, or the different spiritual planes? Or are you creating and shaping your own plane? That's another question you could ask yourself. Not as often as that. So, if you're playing in the mainstream dimensional plane, you're going to be very much reflecting pretty well this and any adapted form of it. So just notice it. So if you notice that you're listening to things and it's changing the way you feel about your experience, about your life, about your presence, then you know where you entered. You entered in the mainstream media plane, that dimension. You're in that dimension because now it's kind of shaping you to feel, act, respond a certain way. So you're entering that playground. If you're going into this different spiritual planes, there's a lot of different ideas what that looks like and what it is. Many of us can get wrapped up in it. Spiritual planes, what we refer to as spiritual planes, could be still polarized, good, bad, light, dark, light workers, dark workers, whatever, That will also play a role within yourself. So you want to pay attention to that. Or, that's the big or, are you creating and shaping your own plane? Your own dimensional plane. Because each one of us are powerful creators within ourselves, so you want to see what you're going to use. So, let me ask you the question, Miss Kimberly. Which one do you want to play with? The mainstream media, what everybody's playing? You want to go into the spiritual realm, namaste and all that stuff, which is okay, it's good to a certain degree. Or are you now going into that creative and shaping your own?
Creating and shaping my own plane for sure.
How about if nobody agrees with you?
I don't care.
You don't let it affect you. Absolutely not. Exactly. We can play on many different levels. Which one would be the best for humanity and individually? Yeah, we can play with any of these planes, absolutely, and we can visit all of them and so forth. And we can go play the mirror, the mainstream. We can go play with whatever. But you have to ask yourself the question: which one serves me the best right now? Right now is instrumental. It's key, because right now is only now. Because 10 minutes from now, 1 minute from now, 1 hour from now, 2 days from now, it will be different. What you give power to before served you then, may not serve you now. So the question is, as much as we can play at all these levels, which one would be best for humanity right now on a collective scale and for you personally? So I say individually, individually being your own reality. What one serves you best? Which one supports you best? And yes, sometimes playing in this older inverted stuff will be instrumental for you to notice that you still have some addiction or attraction to that old world. That's all. It's really about that. Okay, I think I got it all there. Yeah, what do you know? So is there any questions, comments, anything that you want to share or anybody else online wants to share before I wrap her up?
Question: can you unconsciously play on a plane you didn't even realize you were playing on?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how does that, how do you become aware of that and let it go and shift?
Okay, so how would you do it?
Well, if I became aware of it, I would for sure
Okay,
just...
so how would you make yourself aware of it?
I'm assuming by behavior or my feelings or my emotional well-being, all those things that whether I feel good or not good, or that's usually my how I gauge.
Mm-hmm.
So on my emotional health and well-being, if I'm not so if I was like perpetually unhappy or sad or had a lot of those kinds of feelings, and I would have to investigate, see why that was there. But people may not think that there's something else interfering besides, a program. So is everything always linked to a program? Even if you have, say, an attachment, because we've talked about this before. People get attachments, entities attached to them, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm talking about.
Well, even entities and attachments and stuff like that, it requires you to be at a certain vibrational frequency, usually a lower vibrational frequency. Well, it brings you to a lower frequency. It's where your focus is, or whatever. So if you're going to watch the mainstream, for example, I'll just give you an example. Mainstream or movies or whatever it is that actually really emphasizes low vibration, and you're feeling fear, you're feeling hopelessness or whatever, feeling deflated and so forth, your vibration is lower. And then at that point in time, you're kind of open to, especially if you're angry or feeling a strong judgment, your vibration lowers. You're actually opening yourself to align, and other playmates may feel, oh, there's a good energetic resource that supports my frequency, being that particular lower frequency, and that's how you can get attachments and so forth that comes in. So really, the key always becomes as being the observer. Pay attention to how you feel, what you're responding, where your attention's going, how you feel about being exposed to certain things. If it's fluctuating in some way, then you say, okay, I'm putting focus on here. I'm going to shift this focus. Now, some people may feel addicted to that lower vibration because there's still a lot of programs about good, bad, right, wrong, and now they're going to look at it. For example, this is something that's been playing out for some people now that I've heard. So because of this, say, the election stuff or whatever it is with the virus and whatever. So a lot of people are looking at, okay, I want to hear stuff that may project a lower energy, meaning, oh, this thing is dangerous, it can hurt us, or the fact that it's hopeless, or the fact that they're going to protect us, or whatever it is. Or others are going to be looking for something that matches them to say, match my truth, or whatever that truth is. then you're kind of giving yourself to either of the sides, and that you want to observe that and also see how it feels. Now, sometimes when we see that side, it may trigger a higher awareness within yourself, but it's really the awareness in yourself that you need to focus on. So really, it's about paying attention how you feel as you're going along. That's the question. Where's my focus? What frequency am I in? And you don't even ask the frequency. How am I feeling in my current role, current environment, current dance with others, or whatever may be playing out? And by focusing on that, by paying attention as the observer, I know I've talked about this for many years now. As the observer, it's like you stepping back and looking at, okay, what's going on? What am I feeling right now? I'm feeling anxious. Then you can ask yourself, why am I feeling anxious? Where's my focus? Oh, I'm focused on all this bad stuff going on. I'm focused on the fact that I'm running out of money. I'm focused on the fact that, we may have to be injected with something. I'm focused on the fact that I don't have the freedom to. Then you're noticing, okay, I'm giving power to those things. So you want to look at it and say, okay, why am I putting power into that? Why? What's my story around that? Am I giving myself to that, or am I still looking and say, hey, I have the freedom here, and I can achieve this freedom by creating a shift in myself so that I don't support that energy, and then and that energy. Not only will I not have attachments, I will my reality around me starts to change, and my possibilities, my opportunities, my creativity, my imagination, my access to my sourceness will increase, which will more powerfully shape every part of it. How did I do that? So then you're looking at what best serves me right now. What best serves me right now? What best supports me where I am right now? So one of the things, as the observer, if you're feeling certain emotional charges, fears, whatever, ask yourself, okay, how is this serving me right now? You ask yourself, write it down though. Write it down. How does this serve me? Well, it's showing me this, 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 and this, or it's showing me that my focus is on a certain, or that I'm still accessing that old world. Well, it's a good realization to have and say, okay, how can I shift this now? What steps can I take? Where can I shift my focus? Well, I'm not going to put that much focus on what's going on around me. I know we're programmed to believe that, oh, we got to know what's going on so we can protect ourselves, so we can take action. No, you will know what you need to know when you need to know it, okay? It's not that you're disconnected from it. You have the access to it. You'll know if something has to shift, right? So you're just going to put attention to whatever is playing out, and then you can redirect the focus of how you want to direct that. So you say, okay, well, my energy is focused on this, and now I'm going to take steps to wean myself off that, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time tuning into myself, looking at other possibilities, creating in my mind's eye how I want to see my world. And not only that, then start to see how you can plug in some of that into your current reality. I know you have something you really want to share, because I see it in the excitement in your eyes.
No, I totally agree. I always have of the mind that you can bypass lots of things, even going through a lot of lengthy, laborious clearing processes by just putting yourself in a different space, like really tuning into who you are and activating that and holding your highest frequency by engaging in things that bring you joy, going in nature, whatever it is for every individual. I feel that if you can hold your frequency as high as you can at all times, then those things just clear off on their own, because they just can't be sustained in that frequency.
Exactly.
So that's why I had shared
and the thing is too, it's like we don't have to create a dependency on going into nature or anything of that nature. Nature is supportive, and it's a reminder for us, because we're going into a certain energy that kind of reminds us something that's more holistic for ourselves, within ourselves, but it's really about you. So if you can't go into nature, that's fine. It's really going home within you, okay? But, you know, exposed to nature, exposed to sometimes younger kids or whatever it is, other playfulness will actually remind you what you already know within yourself. It just really just kind of elevates you to some degree. But right now we have to understand there's a lot of energies coming through that are, you know, supporting us in a very powerful way to be able to create those shifts.
Yeah, whatever brings the joy out, because the joy is your source essence coming out.
Yeah, yeah. See, the thing is, it's really about tuning into not only your preference, but your joy and what brings joy. Joy is a very powerful feeling. Joy is very solid. Joy is not polarized. Happiness is polarized. Happiness, sad are the two sides of it. Okay? Hatred and love are two sides, but pure love has neither one. It's all encompassing. So joy is playing in that creation and feeling the involvement, feeling the response from it. And that is pure. Now, at that point in time, you may not always feel that level of joy. So you need to kind of look at it and say, okay, I am not feeling the joy. What is taking me out of the joy? Because the joy is natural, pure, and this goes beyond unconditional love. Pure source essence love is always there. Okay? Even this whole idea of loving yourself is an illusionary construct. Because there's no way you have to love yourself. You are love. You love your essence because you are that essence. You are that experience. The only reason we get into feeling that we don't love ourselves is because we get lost in the layers and layers of self-judgment, self-comparisons, the rights and wrongs, goods and bads, failure, success, all of those things, which are just illusionary from the inverted 3D, inverted 2D, inverted matrix construct that was before. So when that's out of the equation, then of course, where are you going to be? You're going to be that exponential representation of your spectrum of love. And really at that point in time, in that state, you are in joy, because joy equals creation. Creation fuels joy. It's that beautiful, the dance. So I think I've covered everything I need to cover, but you wanted to say something? Anyways, guys, thank you for coming together. Thank you for putting all this together. Thank you for being who you are, the awesome part of you that you are, the part of you that is, you know, chosen to be participating together to create this, you know, to unfold, unpack this new world, to unpack the new you, to rebirth what's in you so that you can express it and experience it in physical form and express it on this, what looks like a physical world, to be able to do that. So thank you for coming together and doing that. Share this, this video to as many people as possible, so that way we reach more people, we trigger more people. Of course, we do have the YouTube channel, Advancing Consciousness Series, which has all of the different episodes on there. Please take the time to review them again and to look through them, because, you know, each time you listen to them, it stimulates further. Some of them have processes. Don't think that the processes are stale dated. No, they are always constantly upgrading, and they help you wherever you are. And that's also available on Vimeo, and it's also available on Facebook, on the Facebook group called Advancing Consciousness Series. The podcast will be coming back out again shortly. So, you know, we had an interruption there on unplanned way of doing it, but everything has a level of perfection. So that should be coming out shortly. So stay tuned. Thank you for your support, you know, in the sense of, you know, supporting us financially through whatever we're going. It's highly appreciated. It lets us put more time and focus on creating more content. We'd like to come back to doing at least 2 episodes a week of the Advancing Consciousness series, and the podcast itself to come out at least 7 times a week. They're shorter versions, of course. with different topics, and doing some other live streams on podcasts eventually at some point in time. You were going to say something?
I was going to say, we also thank you for your love support, because we can feel that too.
Yes, yes.
And so it's nice to feel that in the community with everybody. So thank you very much.
Yes,
We totally
and-
appreciate it and are so grateful to have everybody with us.
Beautiful. Thank you. So if you want to join the community, in the description, there's going to be the link to join our community. So you'll get a notification, certain things that come up. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and click the notification bell so that you'll be notified when there are new episodes coming up. If everything goes well, we'll have another episode on Saturday, or maybe not. No, this Saturday I think we're not be able to, but at this point in time, we will go back to every Tuesday and Saturday, probably the following week, and then the other stuff in the podcast. But anyway, go out and play, have a blast. Remember, ask yourself what dimension at all times, so that you can always play in the highest dimension possible, and each and every time you will continue to increase that dimensional state of being, representation, and play.